It's the Terry Sullivan Show. Today's guest, former mayor of Southlake and author, Laura Downey Hill. And featuring Rich Lloyd and the Not a Real Band. And now, Terry Sullivan.
I wish I could play like that. I mean, who doesn't want to play like that?
You can just practice for 40 years.
Yeah, 40 years.
So you think 10 minutes is not long enough to learn all that?
I got 30 minutes this afternoon.
Can't about 40. So.
But you can't. Not everybody can play like that. I mean, even seasoned veterans sometimes they can't play like that. You don't even know what to say over there.
All smoking mirrors.
You're blushing.
He's blushing.
You're lip syncing.
Yes, I'm definitely blushing. Yeah.
I had to have Laura back because we did an episode, but we're good friends, her and Joe and myself, and we go back a ways, so we get caught up, you know. So and we talked just a little bit about her new book. And I thought, no, that ain't going to work because I want to get into this book, Where the Mean Girls Go, because that's a really interesting title. So thanks for hanging around, Laura. Let's get right into it.
Okay.
You said on the back of this book, and I find it very interesting, you say, Where the Mean Girls Go is about the complicated and hurtful relationships between women. Mm-hmm. Why is it different between women than it is between men?
I think women are a lot more emotional and we put a lot more pressure on friendship. We get told from the time we're little girls on the playground that we have to have friends. We've got to have a group that we go everywhere with, sleepovers, birthday parties. It's, you know, I remember being told as a little girl that I needed lots of friends. And what I'm realizing as I have gotten older is that's not necessarily true. It's more important that you have a small group. It can be a very small group of friends that are loyal, that are kind, that are good people. And there's giving and getting in every relationship, but there has to be some kind of a balance where you're there for each other and you want each other in your life. Mm-hmm. And so I just think we get told when we're little that things are supposed to be different than they are. You don't have to have 20 or 30 friends.
But even if you have a small group, let's say you have 4 good friends, the more you get to know each other and the more you get to know about each other's lives, and when one girl out, you know, just naturally does better than the other, how do you keep that core intact where the boundaries stay the boundaries, jealousy doesn't creep in, and one becomes a mean girl? How do you keep that?
Well, so notoriously, women do have to deal with jealousy and envy in a different way than men deal with it. You know, men are more physical beings. They'll get out there on the football field and knock each other around, or on the tennis court or whatever. And I think women, we think about our emotions a lot, and we have a hard time balancing and understanding that the tent is big enough for all of us, and that we'll get more out of a friendship if we are there, not just during the bad times, because I think women tend to get way too excited when there's drama, but also be there with the good times and when you're celebrating another friend, and when they're opening a new business, when they've gotten a big promotion, whether something wonderful's happened in their family. women are kind of late to the game learning how to do that. And so we lose too many friendships along the way because when the friendship changes, so if there's a balance and one friend accomplishes more, it changes the balance, and some women can't handle that. And so they find themselves pulling away and losing a friendship that they never should have lost.
Let's talk about the psychology of that. What for a woman who's maybe had a great victory, and you get in that, you engage in that with her, you enjoy that with her, or somebody that's going through a hard time and you engage in that, lift them up, push them forward. For the person doing that, let's talk about the psychology of how it improves who you are.
Right. So we become more humble and more empathetic by having things happen to us that are sad, tragic, embarrassing, uncomfortable, business losses, political losses, things that didn't go well, financial problems. And when we're willing to share those, we become a better friend, right? You can't share everything with everybody, right?
Sure.
You know, we have things we keep to those close friends, but it can't always be bragging. Look what I accomplished. I just got a raise. I'm making more money. It can't be about that. It has to be the good and the bad, and the willingness to show humility to other people and to accept their kindness and their love, which has gotten harder and harder for people.
How would you say or define women in that core group? How do you establish relationships to where you can be completely honest with each other without falling out?
Okay, well, it's hard, and a lot of times you have to talk yourself through maybe holding someone to a standard that's unachievable. Just because someone's your girlfriend doesn't mean they're perfect, right? And you can't turn on a friend when they don't see eye to eye with you on everything. Obviously, we're drawn together and we build relationships based on our shared values, morals, ethics. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a friend who lets you down, or a friend who you think did something to hurt you, and instead of sitting down and talking to that person, you get it in your head that that person did you wrong. And that can happen with short-term friendships. I tend to call them friendly acquaintances, but it can also happen in long-term friendships. And so you have to be a big enough person to say, whoa, 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 whoa. Maybe I wasn't at my best that day. Maybe I need to just sit down with them and say, am I seeing this the right way? Or maybe I just need to move on and let it go and say, you know, not everything needs to be a confrontation or a deep discussion.
Yeah.
Give your friends mercy, right?
Yeah.
They're not perfect and you're not perfect. And if you want them in your life, there is going to be some giving and some taking.
Should you always be accessible to your friends?
I was just talking to somebody the other day about exhausting friends. I talk a lot about them in the book. Oh my gosh. And they're the people that need you when they need you. And I'm not saying they need you constantly, but when they need you, they need you. And whether it's texting, I need you to be here at this time, I need help with this, I've got a problem, I've got to talk to you right away about it. But what happens with an exhausting friend is when you need them, and there's usually an imbalance. Yeah. They need you all the time. When you do need them, they don't prioritize that.
Right.
Because they're looking at everything through their own lens, their priorities. And it's hurtful, and it's easy to make excuses for a friend that treats you that way. But at the end of the day, they're not a friend. Right? Okay. They're not a friend. You know, if someone is constantly needing you and not willing to give back, you have to step back and say, okay, what am I getting out of this relationship, and why am I choosing to always be available for this person? Am I afraid that they'll dump me if I'm not there? And we've all had it I've had it happen to me. Yeah. We've all had it happen to us, and we can't live up to someone else's standards. And that's not friendship. So a lot of this conversation about women and the relationships we get into, are not all about losing friends or making friends. It's how do we define a friend, and who am I willing to invest in, and how much am I willing to invest in order to have that 2 or 3 or 4 loyal friends.
So in a situation like that, how do you fix it? I mean, do you just pull away until there's just no friendship or no acquaintance whatsoever? Do you come together? Do you define boundaries? How do you fix it?
Well, one of the things I talk a lot about is that women need to have a bigger circle of friends. They can be acquaintances. They can be people that you really don't have time for in your life right now. Maybe your children are different ages. Maybe your business doesn't allow you to have a lot of time to grab a cup of coffee or go to lunch. But you like that. You like those people, so you want to keep them in kind of this circle, because life changes, our seasons change, and people come in and people go out. But there's, the problem with women is we walk into every situation looking for girlfriends. And just because I meet another woman doesn't mean that she's going to want to be my girlfriend, nor I want to be her girlfriend. So we have to get to the point where we look at each other and take each other at face value. And that could be establishing a mentor. That could be a colleague, someone that can help us with our business. That could be someone we just enjoy talking to in the aisle at the grocery store. Friends is a different thing. But back to your original question, some friendships just fade away, and that's okay. As our children grow up, as our interests change, everyone remembers the high school football team and how all the moms sat together in the stands. Okay, perfect example. And then the kids graduate. Some go off and play college ball, some never play ball again, but that group doesn't keep showing up on Friday night to watch the high school game because interests have changed, their kids have gone, the connections have changed, and that's okay. So there's a difference between just growing apart, and there's a difference and purposefully walking away from a friendship that is maybe toxic or unkind. That's a completely different thing.
Do you have a best friend?
Do I have a best friend?
We don't have to talk. Do you have someone that, if you get in a bind, you go, we need to have coffee?
I think I have 3 people who I could call for absolutely anything but different things. And that's why I say this, women need friends in different categories. So if I have a business problem, I know exactly who I'm going to call. If I have I'm past the point of marital problems, but if I had a marital, like a family problem, I guess that's a better way to say a family problem, a child problem, I know exactly who I would call. If I just needed to talk, I know exactly who I would call.
This is what I know. I'm not in that circle. I never get a call. Let me ask you this. When it comes to business, how often do you talk to your dad about it?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, is he your go-to?
Yes and no. I talk to him. It's changed. So my dad's been out of the business now for about 5 years. But we have some other business dealings where we're partners on, and he's pretty much left that with me. I call my dad. I'll be honest about my dad. My dad is physically and mentally retired from business. So I
let you know that.
I get brushed off. He's like, what else do you need? I got things to do. I got to get out to the cows. I got to get out to the garden. So my dad isn't, if I really need to talk, I'm not calling my dad about business now.
He's earned it. He's earned the retirement.
He really has. And he says, you know what, I left you with the knowledge and the ability. Now go take care of it, you know. And so, yes, I have other business mentors that I call.
Again, I've never received a call. Okay, so you say here, unfortunately, women's harshest critics are other women.
Yeah.
How do you deal with mean girls in the workplace?
It really depends on the situation. I've shared some stories and heard some stories that I wouldn't begin to know how to handle those situations. There is so much jealousy and envy when it comes to climbing the corporate ladder or the business ladder. I always say to women, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you are the best prepared person in the room. Make sure that you've done your homework, that you are self-reflecting, how you dress, how you carry yourself. What are you contributing to the conversation in the workplace? And if you're doing all of those things and you have got someone who's hell-bent on you failing or embarrassing you or starting false rumors about you, then you are either not in the right workplace for you and you have to find a healthier workplace, or you need to go speak to someone professionally. You know, one of the things that I try to say is these are real experiences. These are real stories. They happen to me, they happen to friends, they happen to acquaintances. But there are things that happen between women and between men that can't be handled without professional help.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not that person.
Yeah, I got you. On chapter 2, the title of chapter 2 is Respect is Earned.
Yeah.
All right. So you say, value your words. If they do not have value to you, do not waste energy saying them.
Absolutely.
That's difficult.
Well, as women, and I'm talking from a woman's point of view, we constantly raise our hand. We think that the way to be liked and the way to be included and the way to be accepted by the other women is to always be available. You know, I'll bring the snack, I'll bring the cupcakes, I'll be there, I'll open up, I'll clean up. And we're constantly raising our hands. But what tends to happen over time is we can't fulfill those obligations because we're saying yes to everything and we're not prioritizing things. And so when something happens and we can't come through, we have now alienated this whole group of people that we made a promise to. So talk about the weather, talk about your kids, but don't make promises that you either don't want to keep or you just can't keep because of your schedule.
Right. And for people that just can't say no, that's a difficult task to prioritize what you can do and what you can't do.
But you are saying no because you don't pull through. You don't keep your word. So whether you meant well, you thought you were going to do it, you thought, oh, the event, I'll be there, I can't wait, and then you no-show. Why did you say you were coming in the first place? To make you feel good in that moment? To get a little bit of attention from the other person in that moment? You have got to be realistic because you are saying no by saying yes and never following through.
And the end result of that is sometimes very detrimental.
Yes, and then people think you're just that kind of person. And so they stop inviting you and including you because they don't think that you're anyone who will come through. And you end up with this kind of bad reputation that you didn't mean to get. You really had a good heart. And you wanted to be there and you wanted to be included. But you don't. We have to teach our young women, our daughters growing up, that there's value in their time and value in their treasure. And give both with a high level of expectation of yourself, of what you're able to give and what you're going to enjoy giving.
This book, Laura, when you got into writing it, did it come easy for you?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, did it just kind of okay, I got to stop writing because I got to sleep.
Right. So we were talking earlier, I write voice to text. So I go out, put my earplugs in my ears and take a walk and I just talk. And then I download that text, I export it onto a Word document and I start writing, proofing, editing. And this took me less than 4 months. It would have taken me 2 months if I had stuck to it, but I kept getting sidetracked on something. Else. Well, you know, it was funny because my first book came out September of 2022, and then this book came out September 2023. And so I was still trying to sell, you know, you're out there selling yourself. So you're selling and selling and speaking, and you're trying to write another book and work for a living. So it's probably not the best situation.
But it was an easy write.
Very easy write, very easy.
On chapter 3, and this is interesting to me, you give so many nuggets in this book. I mean, and in your first book. so many nuggets that you can take away and think about and make yourself a better person. Chapter 3, you say, mirror, mirror on the wall. And you say, if we raise our daughters to only value vanity, material possessions, and popularity, what happens when they face adversity, loss, failure, or tragedy?
Yeah.
How do you, so you're insinuating that, hey, you got to do both, right? I mean,
Absolutely, yes.
You got to do both, as you do both, you have to teach how to handle yourself in adversity.
Right.
Because in life, adversity is life.
Exactly. I want the book to be a gut check for women at every level. As we raise our daughters, as we enter the workforce, as we become the president of the PTA, as we enter elected office, there is a lot put on us, and we have to step up to the job. We have to do our best, because anything less is going to raise a generation of young women who only look in the mirror and not past the mirror. And that comes down on moms. And you hate to say it, right? Oh, it's not fair. We should be, men and women. No, it really is up to women to raise daughters who are kind and humble, and yes, who stand up for themselves and who speak whatever is on their mind, but also women that are strong enough to pull out the chair and take a seat at the table, because standing around the room doesn't accomplish anything. The people that sit at the table make the decisions, but you have to be someone who people want at the table. And we're raising, unfortunately, a lot of young women who look at themselves in the mirror, and that's all they see. And that's how they value themselves, and they compare themselves, and they never look past how they feel and consider how other people feel, because the world is about relationships with other people, not the relationship you have looking in the mirror. That isn't going to get you anywhere.
I think Hollywood has raised that kind of culture, that what you see is what you are, and it really isn't. What you see is not what you are. Somebody said one time to me, and excuse me, I've never forgot it. They said, "You're not what you think you are, but what you think you are."
Interesting, what you think you are. Huh.
Yeah. So what you put in, that's what's coming out. Chapter 5. Another very interesting nugget for me: pulling up the ladder. If you get to the top of the ladder first, reach down and offer a hand.
Women do a terrible job of that, because we fight so hard to get to the top of the ladder that when we get there, we want to hunker down and protect our turf. And what we don't realize is protecting our turf is leaving all of those women down there looking up at us that are judging us because we got to the top, and they're saying, well, wait, what about me? And you're only as good as the people that you bring along with you. And so, and the other thing that's important for women to realize is they'll get to the top of many ladders in their life. Ladders are everywhere. Volunteer work, business, being an employee, being an employer, elected office. So no matter how hard you work, when you get to that top of that ladder, you really owe it to other women to reach down and to pull them up. And that's that whole discussion about being a good colleague and being a mentor. You can't mentor everyone, but you can be a colleague by setting a really good example for the women that want to be you someday.
Someone once said that you got to really be careful how you treat people on the way to the top, because you might pass them on the way down.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Chapter 8, boundaries. This is so interesting. Socializing online has devalued true friendship and blurred social boundaries. Let's talk about that.
I can't even. I cannot believe what people have done to their reputations online, because they feel, I don't know. I don't want to say how they feel. What I want to say is they are so concerned with being loved by getting hearts and by getting thumbs up, that they just keep pushing and pushing the boundaries. And the people that are loving on them on social media are really no more than followers who like, see, I saw it, I read it, I love you, you know, I'll do anything you tell me to do. Yes, that was mean, but oh well, I think the world of you. And I think we have forgotten that relationships are in person. Relationships are not on social media. I say it, there are women in my community that, in every community, but in my community, that I just have to laugh when I see them palling up on social media. Because if you had those two women sit down together to have a cup of coffee, they wouldn't be able to stand each other.
Right, right.
But they love jumping on the bandwagon and either hurting someone else or being hypercritical or putting their community down. That just brings out the worst in some women, and they're mistaking that as friendship. And that's why we have so many lonely women, because women don't have that friend to reach out to. And they don't have those relationships to fall back on because they spend so much time on social media looking for friends. Are you kidding me? You don't even know anything about these people. But they say something cruel and you like what they're saying, so you jump into the mess. So
And repeat it.
Exactly. But again, social media, I'm not going to beat up on social media because it's our choice, how much we want to let social media into our life. But I always, when I'm speaking to women, I always say, have you ever seen a woman post her vacation on Facebook with anything but gorgeous pictures, dinner, her husband looking glowingly into her eyes, when maybe your husband's actually looking over her shoulder at some woman in a bikini? But she's not going to post that, right? You know, life is not, it's like the family, it's like who hasn't done a family picture, right? Where the kids are, you know, your kids are screaming, one is crying. You know, we had to drug our dog one time, like give him Benadryl or something so that he would sit in the picture. I mean, then we get this beautiful snapshot, and it's like,
You know,
that's not what my life is like. Everyone was yelling at each other. I don't think anyone talked for the next 3 hours, but.
Right. You know, that's funny you said that because, you know Judge Curbo.
Yes, oh yes, of course.
Judge Curbo and his wife, they went on vacation last year, and the only thing that they posted were kids crying. Oh, well, this one, my kid's crying about this. Oh, it's just, the whole trip's a crybaby.
The whole
you know, that
trip,
kind of thing.
somebody's crying, somebody's upset, somebody's, you know, and we just, but that's not, those aren't the relationships we have on social media. Social media is trying to show each other just the best, that our life is wonderful, and our life has wonderful moments, but our life is not always wonderful.
A lot of great things about social media, a lot of not so great things about social media.
It's what you choose,
right.
and it's what you choose to let into your life, right? You know.
Hey, folks, where the mean girls go, where can they pick it up?
It's available on all the book-selling sites, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. It's out there and ready for sale today. So.
When's your next book signing? October?
October 12th, I'm going to have a Amazon release party at my house. So I'm getting ready to put the information out today on that.
I'm pretty sure that I'll get an invite to that.
I'm sure you'll get an invite to that, so yes.
Thanks so much for coming. It's always a joy to have you. You're such an incredible, motivated woman who helps many, many women and men. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Rich?